Hello and welcome back to Elise Reads and Speaks. Today, for my third day of Vlogmas, I'm going to do a check-in with the Reindeer Readathon so I can talk about the books that I am reading thus far this month. Okay, so I'm doing pretty well with this Reindeer Readathon. I think I've done about 7 prompts, I think. Yeah, 7 prompts. I've done 3 of the bonus ones, so I think that means that I have 2 main prompts left and then the slaying it, which is the final one after you've finished everything there is to do on that list. Okay, so I have moved some things around just based on what was available on audiobook through my library, and I've read like 8 books this month so far, and it's only the 15th of the month, so I'm doing pretty well. So I'll tell you which ones I've switched around. So let's just start. Prancer, which was read a book with a travel element. I had originally slotted Under the Whispering Door for that. However, I still have not gotten that audiobook through my library. I'm on the wait list and it looks like I'm towards the top, but I haven't gotten it yet. But I did listen to The Electric Kingdom by David Arnold. And this one I feel has a travel element because it's almost like traveling in time, and there are these portals, and I may look like I'm confused because the book was confusing and I didn't really especially like it, and I gave it 2 stars. I will say about this book, I do like that the girl put an emphasis on the dog, okay? I am all about a girl protagonist that loves her dog and looks out for her dog. That's just something that speaks to me. However, the story itself I found confusing because it's like this girl's life like starts and restarts again, but also from the same point. Like, it's hard to explain, so that's why I was confused throughout the entire story and I couldn't really get into it. That being said, as much as I didn't like the majority of the story, I really did like the ending. I felt like it stuck the ending, and the ending was almost kind of beautiful in a way that I was like, oh, why couldn't you be writing like this the entire book? I don't understand. But because I was so confused for most of it, I ended up giving it 2 stars. But if Under the Whispering Door becomes available, I'll still read that this month because I still really want to read that book. Okay, so for the next prompt that I finished, Vixen, that was a book that caught your eye. I read You've Reached Sam by Dustin Tao, and this book was not as wonderful as I wanted it to be. I gave it 3 stars, so it was decent enough. I don't know, I felt like I read all these reviews of people crying and talking about it's the most beautiful thing they've ever read, and I didn't feel that. Like, I felt like the main character, Julie, was just kind of flat, but at the same time, I understand she was going through like stages of grief and upset and whatnot, so I could see how that could be kind of annoying to read from that perspective. But I think it was more like, I had a major problem in this book because she's grieving over her boyfriend that just died. I think it was like 2 weeks prior to when this story takes place. Like it's a recent death. And I felt people were kind of dictating to her how she should be grieving, like yelling at her because she's not going over to the family's house or going to these candlelight vigils that were set up for him, and talking to her friends and connecting to her friends. And with I get it to a point. Like, this girl's boyfriend dies, she's connected to all these people, and then she just kind of fades away, and people are kind of angry that she's done that. I get that feeling, I do, but I also don't feel you should dictate how a person should grieve. Everyone grieves in their own way, and if she doesn't want to go to a freaking candlelight vigil or several candlelight vigils, like that's her choice. She doesn't have to be there just because she was the girlfriend, you know? And I don't know, I felt like they were just trying to police her actions, and there's really no rule book, and that's why I had a problem with it. Okay. Anyway, I feel like I could go on and on about that book because I have my own stories to tell, but you know what? I will link my Goodreads review down below so you can read about my personal connection to this story and why I feel it felt a little flat. I also finished the Comet prompt. That was a 5-star prediction, which I chose Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend. And I was right. I did give this 5 stars. Dude, I love this world. This world is so fun. It's a sequel to Nevermore, so, you know, again, anything that I say could be a spoiler for the first book, and if you haven't read the first book, I really, really want you to because it's such a good series that I'm not going to tell you a lot for this. I will tell you something exciting that I found as I was about to record this video. I didn't realize that this was 500 pages. I usually go by the Goodreads count, and I guess the one that I clicked on in Goodreads, it said like 467 or something like that. But when I looked at how fat this was, I was like, wow, this really isn't 500? And I looked at the end and it's 521 pages. So you know what prompt I was able to use with this? The bonus prompt of Christmas Star. And that changed some things around because now I don't have to squeeze in Dragon Republic this month like I had planned by R.F. Kuang, because I have already read a book that's over 500 pages. Man, Tiny Tim, Christmas miracle for us all. I also finished the Dancer prompt. Now this was to read a favorite author or a reread, so I kind of combined those. I reread from an author, okay? I don't know if she'd be one of my favorite authors because I haven't read a lot by her, but I enjoyed The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins, and I saw that Royals was available on audiobook from my library, and I was like, I am in the mood for a YA royal story, sure, why not? So I listened to that one and that was fun. That was fun. I gave it 3 stars. It's not like the best YA royal book that I have read, and I find it hard not to compare it to other ones that I've read, and especially when I think those ones have kind of done what she tried to do better. But I will say I had fun with the story and I plan on going on to the next one. So I think 3 stars is pretty decent. I also finished the prompt for Cupid, which was to take a shot at a new author, and I had chosen Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This one was a good surprise. I will say for more than half of this book, I was very bored, and I was hearing about marital struggles and they're, you know, away in a cabin and talking about their failing marriage. I was like, well, this is kind of depressing. I mean, I found the prosopagnosia really interesting, the face blindness, just because I find that interesting in general. But there is a turn in here, and as soon as it makes that turn, you're like, oh, and all these things start clicking into place. And man, by the end of the book, I was like, wow, what a well-written book. What a well-written book. I was excited when I got to the end of this book. Like, usually you're excited to begin a book. I was excited to end the book because I was just like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Whoa. And I enjoy that feeling. This one got 4 stars from me. I also finished the prompt for Donner, which was to read a book with green or red as the primary color on the cover. So if you remember from my TBR, originally I was either going to read A Court of Thorns and Roses or The Grimrose Girls based on how I felt during the month. And I'll tell you, I didn't go for either one of those. Okay, I ended up reading The Hidden Child by Louise Fane. So this one is primarily green, so I even strayed away from the red. I went for green. And I had picked this out for a different prompt, but then I was able to fill that prompt with something else, then I moved this one over to the Donner prompt. So the other one that I finished, the other main prompt that I finished was Rudolph. This was to read a standalone book. The audiobook for If We Were Villains became available, and I listened to that one and loved it. Oh, I didn't even tell you about The Hidden Child. I loved that one too. I gave both The Hidden Child and If We Were Villains 4 stars. Man, I've been doing pretty good with my reads so far. So let me recap both of those for you just a little bit. The Hidden Child was the one that I thought was like Nazi Germany, and they have the epileptic child and they have to figure out how they can hide that child if they believe in eugenics. So I was wrong that I thought it was taking place in Germany. It was actually London, and the father of this child was a professor, or like a self-proclaimed professor, because he really didn't have a degree, but he was doing all these talks on eugenics. And it was really the story of these 2 parents and how they came to terms with their daughter's epilepsy. I mean, they even sent her to a facility, and then coming to grips with that, the mother was really having a problem with it, whereas the father really wanted her to stay there. And it started really coloring their decisions about, like, should we go forward with this eugenic society, being that we see like what these choices could do if they were made to impact our daughter. Like, it was really interesting, and I was pleasantly surprised by that one. Oh, and also, epilepsy is a character. Like, there are several chapters told from epilepsy's point of view, which I thought was really awesome. Like, I haven't seen that in a book before. It kind of made me think of The Book Thief, how it was told from Death's perspective, but I've never seen it from like a disorder. Is that what it's called? Epilepsy? Is that a disorder? I think it's referred to as a disorder, but that was cool. And for If We Were Villains, if you are a Shakespeare nerd like me and you like crimes and whatnot, this one should be right up your alley. It's a mystery about these people that go to a special school to specialize in acting for Shakespeare, just Shakespearean acting. And being an actor and reading a story like that, I felt like they really nailed the dynamics of the actors in a theater program. There are the good and there are the bad, all right? Like the good is that you become a family, for better or for worse. You really are that tight-knit, and even if you hate these people, you love them just as fiercely. The bad is like all the jealousies that come into play, and it makes you question your self-worth, and then you start to not like people for their success when you feel that you're deserving of that success. Like I hate to say that. I don't want to like knock actors or anything, but it's real. It's real in a theater program, okay? There's a lot of jealousy that goes on, and I felt like the author of this book really nailed it. There's a mystery that happens because somebody dies and you're trying to figure out who killed who and when and whatnot. And just the way that they tied in so many different Shakespearean quotes, and they use Shakespeare to like figure out what happened. Like, oh, this was good. This was so good. Great time. Great time. I used it as my standalone book for Rudolph. So for the bonus prompts, the ones that I completed were Christmas carols, Christmas lights, and Christmas stars. So that's the ebook, the audiobook, and the book over 500 pages that I didn't realize that I read. Awesome. The prompts that I have left are Dasher, which is to read a novella or a short story, and I still plan on reading Queens of Fenburn for that one by Kendara Blake. And I also have Blitzen, which was the random choice that Sibby chose for me, The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw, and I just started that one last night. So, you know, so far it's off to a good start, but I think I'm only like 2 chapters in. And the final prompt is Slaying It. This is the final bonus, the last thing that you can do to help your team, and that is to redo one prompt. And I'll just figure out what that is when I get to it. I was gonna do Blitzen and have Sibby choose another book, but I mean, with the stuff that I have lined up, I could use the Grimrose Girls for that red cover. I could use Under the Whispering Door if it becomes available for Prancer. So, I mean, we will just see. So that's all that I've got for you today. Thank you for tuning in to Elise Reads and Speaks on this 3rd day of the 12 days of Vlogmas, and I will catch you tomorrow.